Your coworker won't stop talking about ChatGPT. Your feed is full of threads about prompts and automation and the future of work. Everyone seems to be building something, learning something, pivoting towards something. And you scroll past. Maybe you roll your eyes. Maybe you feel a flicker of something you don't want to name. Irritation, anxiety, a quiet resistance that hardens every time someone insists you need to pay attention to this. Some people are obsessed with AI. They treat every new tool like a revelation, every update like breaking news. Other people sit on the opposite end. They ignore it entirely, dismiss it as hype, or feel genuine hostility toward the whole phenomenon. That second group gets called stupid, stubborn, or stuck in the past. But that's not what's actually happening. AI resistance is rarely about intelligence. Almost always it's about psychology. Something in the brain is responding to a perceived threat, whether that threat is overload, identity, trust, or values. Understanding which one is driving you changes everything. It's the difference between a conscious choice and an unconscious defense. This video breaks down the 4 types of AI resistance: the overwhelmed brain that can't figure out where to start, the identity threat brain that feels personally offended by what AI represents, the distrust brain that sees risks everyone else seems to ignore, and the principal rejector brain that refuses to participate on moral grounds. There's a quick test near the middle to figure out which type you are. By the end, you'll know whether your resistance is serving you or quietly costing you something. One of these types looks like confidence and conviction, but it can turn into regret if you're not careful. Let's start with the most common one. Type 1 is the overwhelmed brain. This person doesn't hate AI, they're just drowning in information about it. Every week brings a new tool, a new capability, a new prediction about which jobs will disappear. The landscape shifts so fast that trying to keep up feels pointless. Decision fatigue sets in. The brain protects itself by tuning out entirely. You can spot this type by their behavior. They've saved dozens of AI tutorials they've never watched. They've bookmarked tools they've never opened. When someone asks if they've tried the latest thing, they deflect. I'll get to it eventually. I just need to find the right starting point. There's too much to learn, so I'm waiting until it settles down. The waiting never ends because the settling never comes. What's actually happening is cognitive overload triggering avoidance. The brain encounters too many options, too much novelty, too little clarity about what matters. Rather than process the complexity, it shuts down. This isn't laziness. It's a protective mechanism that worked in simpler environments, but backfires when the cost of avoidance compounds over time. If this is you, motivation won't help. Another inspirational thread about why AI matters will just add to the pile. What actually works is radical simplification. Pick one tool, pick one use case. Spend 10 minutes a week on that single thing. Ignore everything else. Your brain needs a tiny, safe entry point before it can tolerate more. Type 2 operates differently. This person isn't confused, they're offended. Type 2 is the identity threat brain. For this type, AI doesn't feel like a tool. It feels like an insult. They've spent years developing a skill, building expertise, earning recognition for something they do well. Now a machine can approximate that thing in seconds. The response isn't curiosity, it's defensiveness that often shows up as contempt. You can spot this type by their language. It's cheating. It's soulless. Anyone using this is just lazy. They dismiss AI users as people who can't do the real work. They defend their craft with unusual intensity, not because the craft needs defending, but because their identity is fused with it. When AI threatens the craft, it threatens who they are. What's actually happening is ego protection. The brain perceives a status threat and responds with rejection. Admitting that AI has value would mean reconsidering years of effort, questioning whether hard-won skills still matter, sitting with uncomfortable uncertainty about the future. Contempt is easier. It preserves the hierarchy where human expertise sits on top. The irony is that this defense often accelerates the thing it fears. While the identity threat brain refuses to engage, others integrate AI into similar work and produce more, faster, sometimes better. The gap widens. The resentment deepens. The position becomes harder to maintain. If this is you, the reframe that helps is separating execution from taste. AI can generate, it can draft, suggest, iterate, but it cannot decide what's good. It cannot bring your specific perspective, your accumulated judgment, your understanding of context and nuance. Those remain human. The tool handles labor. You handle meaning. That division doesn't diminish your expertise. It amplifies what only you can provide. Type 3 is the most rational-sounding resistance. These people have reasons. They can articulate exactly why they're skeptical. Type 3 is the distrust brain. This type isn't emotional about AI, they're analytical. They've read about hallucinations, about models confidently stating false information. They've thought about privacy, about where their data goes when they type into a prompt box. They've considered job displacement, dependency, the ways this technology could be weaponized. Their resistance comes from a risk assessment, not a feeling. You can spot this type by their specificity. It hallucinates too often to be reliable. I don't want my data training their models. This will concentrate power in a few companies. We're creating dependency on systems we don't understand. They're not dismissing AI out of ignorance. They're dismissing it out of caution. What's actually happening is legitimate threat detection. Unlike types 1 and 2, type 3 isn't necessarily running from something. They're evaluating trade-offs and deciding the costs outweigh the benefits. This can be entirely rational. Some concerns about AI are valid. Accuracy problems are real. Privacy implications are real. Labor disruption is real. The question for type 3 is whether the response matches the actual risk. Complete avoidance treats AI like it's uniformly dangerous, when in reality the risks vary by use case. Drafting an email has different stakes than publishing medical advice. Brainstorming ideas has different stakes than automating legal contracts. Blanket rejection often overshoots the actual threat. If this is you, boundaries work better than boycotts. Decide what you won't put into AI systems. Commit to verifying any factual claims. Use it for low-stakes tasks where accuracy matters less. You can engage thoughtfully without abandoning caution. The goal is calibrated participation, not binary refusal. Before type 4, let's make this concrete. Quick test. Answer: honestly. First question: do you avoid AI primarily because it feels overwhelming, like there's too much to learn and you don't know where to start? That points to type 1. Second question: do you avoid AI because it feels like a threat to your skills, your craft, or something you've worked hard to build? That points to type 2. Third question: do you avoid AI because you don't trust it, whether that's accuracy concerns, privacy concerns, or broader risks? That points to type 3. Fourth question: do you avoid AI because you reject it on principle, because something about it conflicts with your values regardless of practical benefits? That points to type 4. Whichever question resonated most reveals your primary driver. And type 4 is the hardest to shift because it's built on conviction, not confusion. Type 4 is the principal rejector. This type doesn't need more information. They don't need their concerns addressed. They've made a values-based decision that AI conflicts with something they believe in. Maybe it's anti-corporate sentiment, a refusal to feed systems owned by tech giants. Maybe it's concern about authenticity, a belief that AI-generated content degrades culture. Maybe it's fear of human atrophy, a conviction that relying on machines makes people dumber, lazier, less capable. You can spot this type by their certainty. This is soulless. I refuse to participate in this. We're trading something essential for convenience. Their position isn't really about whether AI works. It's about whether the whole direction is right. They're making a moral stand. What's actually happening is values-based filtering. The brain evaluates AI not on utility, but on alignment. Does this fit who I want to be? Does this fit the world I want to live in? If the answer is no, no amount of practical benefit changes the calculation. This is similar to someone who refuses to shop at certain companies or eat certain foods. The decision isn't about efficiency, it's about integrity. The challenge for type 4 is distinguishing between principled choice and principled avoidance. One is active. You engage with the world according to your values, making conscious decisions about where to draw lines. The other is reactive. You reject something wholesale because engaging with complexity feels like compromise. The first is sustainable. The second often leads to irrelevance dressed as integrity. If this is you, define your actual ethical lines instead of defaulting to total rejection. Maybe you refuse to use AI for deception. Maybe you disclose when AI assisted your work. Maybe you only use it for tasks that don't replace human connection. These boundaries let you participate without abandoning your values. Complete abstinence isn't the only way to maintain principles. So, here's the key question underneath all 4 types. Is your resistance healthy or risky? Healthy resistance looks like this. You have clear reasons for your position. You can articulate them without getting defensive. You can still compete in your field without the tools you're avoiding. Your stance is calm, considered, chosen. You're not anxious about falling behind because you've made peace with the trade-offs. Risky resistance looks different. You feel behind but numb the feeling instead of addressing it. You mock AI users to reduce your own anxiety about not engaging. You refuse to develop even basic literacy, not because you've decided it's unnecessary, but because learning feels threatening. Your position generates more stress than peace. The distinction matters because one is a decision and the other is a defense. Decisions can be revised when circumstances change. Defenses dig in harder the more they're challenged. If your resistance makes you feel righteous and calm, it's probably serving you. If it makes you feel anxious and reactive, something else is running the show. Here's the smallest safe step for each type. If you're type 1, the overwhelmed brain, commit to one 10-minute AI habit per week. Pick a single tool and a single use case. Ignore every other development until that one thing feels comfortable. Mastery of one task beats paralysis across dozens. If you're type 2, the identity threat brain, use AI for critique rather than creation. Generate alternatives to your work, then decide what's actually good. Let the tool serve your judgment instead of replacing it. You'll find your taste still matters more than you feared. If you're type 3, the distrust brain, set explicit boundaries and operate within them. No sensitive data, no published content without verification. Use AI as a drafting tool that you review and refine. Bounded engagement is safer than blanket avoidance because at least you understand what you're dealing with. If you're type 4, the principal rejecter, write down your actual ethical lines. What specifically would cross them? What usage falls within them? Clarity about your values lets you participate in ways that align with who you want to be. Total rejection often hides uncertainty about where the lines actually are. Here's what I want you to take from this. Resisting AI doesn't make you stupid or stubborn, but understanding why you resist can reveal whether that resistance is protecting you or limiting you. Some skepticism is healthy, some caution is warranted, but if your position is driven more by emotion and avoidance than by conscious evaluation, it's worth examining. The world will keep moving. The tools will keep evolving. The question isn't whether you use AI. The question is whether your relationship to it is chosen or reactive. Chosen resistance has power. Reactive resistance just has consequences you haven't acknowledged yet. So tell me, which type are you? Was it overwhelm, identity threat, distrust, or principle? Drop it in the comments. I want to know which one finally made sense of your position. If this helped you understand your own resistance, subscribe. We break down the psychology behind everyday patterns in a way that actually makes sense. The next video explores something completely different, but deeply connected. The psychology of excessive people pleasers. Why some people can't stop saying yes, what it costs them, and what's actually driving the pattern underneath. That one might explain more about you than you expect. I'll see you there.